Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say, it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Friday edition of Pod Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Friday. That means we'll have JC here in just a second part of today's program. We'll have Mike Griffith from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Dog Nation, who will give us his thoughts on the SEC Media Days leading up to the season cranking up here soon. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen him on Paul Feinbaum's show. Feel free to shoot some text messages or questions for Mike Griffith. He likes to ruffle the feathers. He's kind of like the villain out there in the SEC. If you missed it last night, I believe the Yankees win 1-0. Brady Singer, former Gator, shut the Yankees down to the bottom of the ninth. Not much else going on in the world of sports. The Gators did get a 4-star commitment from defensive back Jakeem Jackson out of Osceola. So congratulations to them. I know they lost out on another kid to Miami from Trinity Catholic, the big offensive lineman committed to the Hurricanes, and then another kid committed to UCF, believe it or not, a highly ranked kid. So anyway, enough of that. Let's head to the Titan More Hotline. We're joined by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Yep. Good morning, Shane. Beautiful Friday, heading south on I-75 with a couple of friends, and we are going to go play a little golf today, QB.
What golf course?
We are going to attempt to try to play Stream Song today and not lose 10 balls. So I don't know what piece we're going to play, but by God, we won't play it. That's what we're going to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
How's your week going there, QB?
Oh, it's going fine. It's going fine. It's a weird time of the year because there's really not much from a sports standpoint, not much to watch unless you like watching baseball, but I have trouble doing that. Andy says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mountain Law, Ben Shelton takes the number 2 seed at the Atlanta Open to 3 sets before losing 6-7, 6-4, 6-7. The guy who beat him was number 8 in the world at one time. Yeah, Ben Shelton's got a great career ahead of himself. I think JC could probably take him on the court, but who knows?
Oh, yeah. Well, Ben is, I think, a sophomore in Florida. His father, as we know, plays golf here locally and coaches the Gators, does a great job, obviously, Brian Shelton. And, Ben, I think somebody was telling me he is ranked somewhere around 250, 260 in the world. Of course, he's an NCAA champion, men's singles champion, and I think you'll see him be going pro here rather shortly. I think he's a tremendous talent. He's got a lot to look forward to. If he stays healthy, we can expect to hear a lot of big things out of young Ben. So we wish him the luck. The most.
JC, are you riding or are you driving?
I'm driving, QB. I'm driving. I'm talking to you. I got a phone in my hand. It's unbelievable, the multitasking.
Dear Lord.
I think it'd probably be a little too much for you, QB.
Yeah.
But we're on I-75 trying to stay in the lane. It's difficult. You got cops everywhere. You got New Yorkers and Pennsylvanians and Rhode Islanders rolling through here like their states are on fire. And we're just trying to handle it right now. But don't worry.
Are they all heading to Disney, you think? They're heading to Disney.
Well, no, I think they're heading to find a new home. That's what I think.
Possibly. All right, we got a Facebook Live question here. This is right up your alley, JC. John says, brought to you by Mountain Law. Did you hear about a group of Big Ten players approached the Big Ten about wanting a split share?
Yeah.
It went away. A split share of the media rights. If that happens, I see Sankey following suit the very next day. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that, like one of the guys on ESPN said, that at some point there's going to be collective bargaining, there's going to be representation for the players, and I almost want to say, even though I know you disagree with this, but there could even one day be some sort of employment options for students. They're going to have some sort of collective bargaining at some point. It's got to the point right now where the money is to the extent that the Supreme Court essentially said the business model that the NCAA had for so many years that we are all very aware of is no longer valid. And so players are going to get paid. That's just the way it is. And I don't know about sharing revenues with television networks, with conferences, but if that happens, it almost feels like to me there's going to be some sort of cap or some sort of collective bargaining initiative that's going to represent players so that they get what I think they've been waiting for all this time. Now, name, image, and likeness is an acronym for so many things that involve paying players these days just to play or just letting them represent their name, image, and likeness and get paid. So it's very nebulous as to what is the exact framework we're going to have for the players, but they're going to get something. And, you know, the more this evolves, I think we're heading to some sort of eventual representation and collective bargaining for players. Just what I think is going to happen in time, yeah.
Which I have a hard time believing because it's not. Well, the reason is because, JC, you got 85 scholarship players. Okay, you got to remember,
yep,
when you dress 70 dudes on a weekend, there's only an average of about 24 to 25 players that actually walk on that football field and play. Okay, I just don't know how they're going to have a split money with guys that. You know, we talked about the union yesterday on here. You know, if you're part of the Players Association in National Football, you're stroking a check for $10,000. You have to do that. So I don't know how it's going to work out. I think it's all going to work itself out, but the money is not going to be what I still don't believe one bit of what any of these people being offered money to go to Miami, because literally they're not going to get anything until they enroll in school. They may change their decision and go elsewhere. But we've heard people talk about even the big time, the Biletnikoff Award winner who went from Pitt to USC. He's been upset because the stuff that they promised him ain't happening. And I just think that's going to happen. I just think it's a big crock of crap. All right. Daniel says here, JC probably can answer this better than me, Daniel. Shane, I'm heading to Scotland for golf tomorrow. Any course recommendations? Any golf course you play over there is phenomenal.
Well, I think it will depend on where he flies in. So let's say he flies into Edinburgh. Certainly the old course is right there in St. Andrews. But, you know, it takes a while to get on there. I think, you know, if you haven't gotten a reserved tee time, you probably wouldn't be able to get on there anytime soon. So then you got to get out into the countryside a little bit. And some of the courses that I've heard my friends tell me about on trips that they have taken, it would include something like Trump Turnberry, Muirfield, Troon is good. A lot of folks like to go to Carnoustie because Carnoustie is more of a metropolitan area, if you can call it that. And that's a little bit south of Scotland, but I think it's in England. I don't really know. I just know that Carnoustie is a popular destination because it's easy to get to with trains. The roads there, as you would know, in Ireland and Scotland, take a while to get around. So it's logistic nightmares out there. And you know, the folks, I just heard, QB, I don't know if you knew this, the folks that went to the British Open here that just happened a couple of weeks ago have had an absolute nightmare coming and going because of the airline issues that are happening with the airlines going through Heathrow, the delay, the lost luggage. Imagine going 10 hours by plane, landing in London to find out that your connection has been canceled to get to Edinburgh. And so then you have to take a train, but you can't get on the nearest, you can't get on the soonest train, if that's the word, because your luggage has been lost and it's not there yet. And, you know, Delta had issues, American had issues. It's a nightmare traveling. And I just wish him the best of luck. I hope he gets through it okay. Maybe it will be better now that the Open Championship is over. They had the Scottish Open one week. They have the British Open the next week. And so that's a lot. It's a lot of traffic in a place that has very poor infrastructure. So I think if he can just get to Edinburgh and then go from there, he'll be fine once he gets in Scotland. But getting there is a nightmare. What I've heard, a lot of people that I've heard from say that you really should pack light if it's possible and just hope your clubs make it.
Are you in the market to sell or buy a home? Darring Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker in Paris, will provide you with fast, friendly, and reliable services. Give her a call today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. Speaking with JC on the Titan Tomorrow hotline, we'll have Mike Griffith from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Dog Nation join us. And JC, do you know who Mike Griffith is?
No, but I'm sure I would like him if you say he likes to stir the pot a little bit.
I'm getting so many text messages about I can't believe you're having Mike Griffith on. I'd rather listen. They hate him.
Well, listen, I guess they may hate him, but if they know who he is, that means they've listened to him. I'll tell you this, QB, I wanted to ask you this that I forgot to ask you about on Monday. I don't know what your thoughts are, although I think I can predict what you're going to say or presume what you're going to say, and that would be Kirby Smart's outspoken ideas of trying to get that game home and home. What do you think the chances of that happening, and what do you think of it if it did happen?
Well, I talked about this a couple of times this week, and we'll talk to Mike Griffith about it. Look, I understand what Kirby's saying, but it makes no sense, okay? Because he wants to go home and home to get an extra recruiting weekend. That is one. That's every other year he's going to have a home game. It's not like both, but he's going to have a home game every year. So, and how much better can you get at recruiting? He's already the best recruiter in America. Is it going to give you one more 5-star? I don't get it.
Well,
I don't get it at all.
Is it only? It can't only be about recruiting. There's got to be a couple of other reasons he wants home and home. I mean, I would think maybe Georgia fans have gotten to the point where they're just. I mean, I doubt this is true, but I've heard Georgia fans say they're just it's more of an advantage for Florida playing.
No, because every Georgia fan that I've talked to, and even Kirby has said it in his press conferences, they want to keep it there because majority of the Georgia people have vacation homes in the Ponte Vedra, Sea Island area, which is right by Jacksonville. Okay. This is all about having that one recruiting weekend, which, like I said, you've either been number 1, 2, or 3 in the last 8 years in recruiting. Is it really going to make you any better? I just – and here's the thing. I mean, I've said this, and I'm going to talk to Mike. I'm getting all these texts about how people hate Mike Griffith on here. But Griffith, people don't realize Mike Griffith started the Steve Spurrier Coaches Award, which was this year was the first year. This is the guy that started it. But, JC, you've been around sports a long time, and I brought this up the other day. What Kirby is doing at Georgia right now, to me, is almost the same thing that Steve Spurrier did when he took over the Florida Gators.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 1,000% true. I mean, they could not get out of the mud with Mark Richt. Nice guy, just couldn't finish the job, except the fact that I think Georgia was in a better place when Kirby got there compared to where Florida was when Steve came. When Spurrier got to Florida, the program was in an absolute shambles, and he turned it around quicker than I think anybody could have expected by basically changing the culture, changing the offense, changing the players, doing everything that he could to get them out of that rut. When Mark Richt left Georgia, they were still Georgia, pretty good team, obviously a contender every year. When you bring in Kirby Smart, though, you're bringing in a guy that had the pedigree of national championships. You're bringing in a guy that coached under the probably what most consider the greatest ever. You're bringing in a winner and a guy that knows how to get there. And, he brought Georgia to that playoff. They beat Oklahoma, then they lost, but they got there. And beating Alabama last year was probably the biggest thing that's happened to Georgia football since Herschel, obviously, and maybe bigger than that because it got them to a place where now national respectability is intact. I was always impressed with what Georgia fans did when they went to Notre Dame and took over the stadium, took over Jesus, took over the campus, took it all over. And they took over to let everyone know that they have arrived, and Kirby Smart, absolutely, that is 1,000% true what you just said. Yep.
Yeah, because he's I don't know, what year is this for him? Do you know right off the top of your head?
I better say he's in his 4th year.
No, he's been there longer than that. Had to be
okay, well, maybe
that.
he's in there for 5 or 6. Well, I mean, they went to in 2017, so I guess this would be his 5th year, because wasn't his first or second year they went to the Rose Bowl and beat Oklahoma in the second half comeback. That was early in his tenure. So 5 or 6 maybe 5 or 6 years, something like that.
Dan says on Facebook Live, I don't understand why every time a contract comes up, there's talk about moving the Florida-Georgia kick. I've never heard anything about moving Texas OU out of Dallas.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, Florida, Georgia. Look, Georgia made the biggest news. They made the biggest noise about this when they were getting boat raced by the Gators every year. They started getting frustrated, losing the Spurrier damn near every year. They were tired of coming down and emptying and being emptied out by Urban Meyer. It got to where it wasn't as much of an event for them when they kept losing. And now, they've gotten back, but I mean, Florida went through quite a spell of just completely dominating this series, much like Georgia did in the 80s, and 70s. So, with Georgia, it was more of a frustration, I think, that they had to keep coming to Jacksonville and get their tails kicked in and leave at halftime. And that just kind of wore on them a little bit, but things changed. They got Kirby Smart in there, and we now know the results. So
it's his 7th year.
Well, yeah, 7th year. Okay, so I was off by half. But listen, I think beating Alabama just meant everything to everything to their fan base, because of the way they lost the SEC championship game. I mean, that blew their mind. They fully intended to go into Atlanta and send Alabama to the Citrus Bowl, and just the opposite happened. So getting that rematch and then the result that followed was probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to Georgia football. Really, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's amazing to me that 40 years that transpired between championships for that program. That is a true definition of futility. And I think that is now over, and they have what they've been looking for, and that's respect nationwide. They get recruits coming in there. I mean, they are closest thing, I think, to what Alabama standards has been.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It'll be interesting. I got a lot of questions for Mike Griffith. He'll be joining us at 8:30. JC, since we've been taking Wednesdays off during this downtime during the summer, we haven't been able to do our Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. The Rocket Mortgage Tournament up in Michigan is going on, and Tony Finau is tied for the lead with Taylor Pendrith from Canada. Finau's trying to go back to back. You probably would have picked Finau, huh, if we would have had the Peachland Dental contest?
Oh, I would have. I mean, you see the size of his feet? I mean, this guy could literally walk on water. They're massive. They're so big. I mean, I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember Bob Lanier, who played for the Detroit Pistons, but his feet were the biggest in history. Shaq had some big ones. Tony Finau, next time you watch him play, dude, check out his feet. He can steer a boat with those things. I mean, it's incredible, and his skill level is incredible. He's one of the best golfers to not win as often as he should have. I think he tracked the ice last week, and that's kind of like Georgia, right? I mean, he got over the hump a little bit, and coming back like he did, it was a little help from Scott Kersey, who just threw up all over himself on the back nine, shooting 41. I mean, my God, good for Tony. And now here he is, -8. Oh, I mean, this guy, watch out. I hope he doesn't go to Live. If he goes to Live, or Club 54, as you call it, I'm going to be really disappointed by that. I hope it doesn't happen, QB.
I mean, speaking of that, are you going to tune in and watch? Where are they playing this weekend?
Well, I had it on the phone. They are playing in Michigan at the Detroit Golf Club.
No. I'm talking about the Club 54 folks.
Oh shit! Who the hell knows? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll be down at Stream Songs. They play it. They played at one of Trump's deals up in Jersey. I think they're going to have their Club 54 or Tour 54 championship down at Doral, which will be nice. So they had a big soiree with Trump and all these people and all this and that up there in New Jersey. I don't know. They're ganging up on the PGA Tour for whatever reason, and I'm not smart enough to know all of the insides and outs there. But I just hope that some of these guys stay on the regular tour, because I just don't. I have no interest in the exhibition golf, as you call it. So I agree with that. It's not competitive the way it should be. 3 rounds, shotgun starts, all this crap. It's not what I'm used to. So I don't really like watching it.
Yeah. Dan said Barkley's conversation with Club 54 was interesting. I think he would be a good fit for that. Yeah, because it's not real golf. I mean, Barkley would be great commentating. Him and Faraday would be outstanding for what they want that tour to be, in my opinion. Yeah. JC, let's switch gears real quick before we let you go. I know you're busy there getting mentally prepared to battle Stream Song and your competitors. But the NFL training camps have started. Did you see where they put that clause in Kyler Murray's contract where he had to study X amount of hours? Yeah. Well, they've now taken it out. They've changed their mind and took it out. Deadest thing I've ever seen.
Well, Kyler threw a unannounced press conference. Really didn't seem very open to the whole thing, and I think he's a spoiled little rotten brat. And I hope Arizona loses. I'll tell you another thing. I'm not impressed with Scott Frost in Nebraska. He comes up to Big Ten Media Days and he stands there. Remember, we're talking about a guy who went 3-9 last year. They went 1-8 in the Big Ten, and he's standing at the podium. Doesn't say a word, no opening comments, just stands there and says, all right, anybody got any questions? He has no time for it. And I just don't know. I mean, you make a lot of money as a head coach to fail in this business, but sometimes I have to really question the intelligent quotient of some of these coaches. And I don't think that's because you make a lot of money means you're really that smart, but you don't need to be pushing people away, especially the media, when you suck. And Nebraska right now sucks. And if they don't do better than 3-9, Trev Alberts will have him out there picking up garbage. So I think the bottom line is Scott Frost and coaches like that need to maybe endear themselves a little bit more to the fan base, to the media. If they do that, maybe they'll get a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. But let them go 3-9 this year and see what happens. That kind of irritated me as well, QB. I'm tired of these spoiled, rotten guys who get paid a lot of money, don't have a lot of intelligence, and get out there and just try to shun everything instead of being a little bit more open to the idea that maybe they'll deserve what they get paid at some point in their rather lackluster career. So that's kind of how I feel about the whole Kyler Murray thing, and you can throw Scott Frost in there too from Nebraska. Great quarterback, did great, but Nebraska's not good.
John asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, when Texas joins the SEC, do you think Texas and Texas A&M could be the best rivalry in the conference? Hang on, it went away. Let me pull it back up. I hate it when this happens. Given both teams will likely be highly ranked if Sark gets them there, where would you rank that rivalry? I guess he's saying within the conference. Obviously, it's like an Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Georgia rivalry.
It is, but they just haven't played enough here recently. But they do not like each other. Those schools have a rivalry off the field just as poignant as the one on the field. And I think it's great that in 3 years, eventually they'll probably play each other in the regular season. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a tremendous, but I don't think listen, the traditional rivalries in this conference are very well documented. We already know what they are. But I think adding A&M and Texas is going to be tremendous. And, throw Oklahoma in there as well with A&M. That could be another good one. And Oklahoma and Arkansas should be a good one. The proximity between the two schools is very close. That could be a good rivalry as well. It's going to be fantastic, but we got to wait 3 years. So you know how I feel about that, QB. One other thing I want to ask you.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead. All right.
Well, you'll forget. Ask your question first.
No, I won't forget. You go first. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you because you're kind of a closet Texas fan. You've always hated OU, but OU's always dominated them. We talked about it yesterday. Right. One of our listeners chimed in saying that I think ESPN had Texas going 11-1, losing only to Alabama. I do not see that happening. I think they're still a 500 ball club, maybe 7-5 this year. But my question to you is, who do you think has the better year, OU or Texas?
Oh, Oklahoma's going to win the conference. I mean, I think they're going to have the better year I think Oklahoma's going to win the conference. And, I still respect what Baylor has done more than Texas in the last 10 years in everything, basically, all sports. So, I don't know. I mean, I like Texas just because I think the whole nostalgia of the song, the cheerleaders with the chaps on, the big cow, the Austin is kind of a neat place to go if you've never been. But I think as far as football goes, they're still on the road to recovery, and I think 7-5, 8-4 makes sense. Yeah, I don't see them beating Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's going to win the conference, and Baylor's going to be right there behind them.
All right. Before you ask me your question, Scott's got a good one here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Kirby won the SEC and played for the Natty in his second year. Saban played for the SEC in his second year and won it all in his third. Is it realistic that Napier could be in Atlanta by year 2 and win the SEC by year 3? Cool.
Well,
I mean, there's going to have to be a lot of turnover.
You're better suited to answer that question, QB, because you're closer to the program with your duties and responsibilities and the things that you see and hear over there. But I would say, putting a timetable on it is difficult these days because of how quickly things change in college football, especially in the transfer portal and so forth. But I do expect success in Florida now. I think they've found the guy they need to bring the organization and the discipline to this football team. It was the most undisciplined team probably in the East and maybe in the conference with all the penalties and all the bullshit. So I think at some point you gotta change your culture, and that's what he's going to do. The question should be, how long will it take to change the culture of Florida? And that brings me to my 2 questions for you. Over under, will Florida score more or less than 31 points on average per game? And then give me what you think over under 7.5 wins for the season, QB.
I feel like you ask me this every time we have a show, or somebody asks us this.
I told you. You never tell. Well, maybe I think Buddy Martin might have asked you, but I don't know if I've asked you that. But let's go. Does the offense average over 31.5 points, and then the win over under 7.5? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna think about it over the weekend, do some homework, grind, watch some tape. Who knows what else I may do? I will give you an answer on Monday. That's fair enough. I know I kind of just sprung that on you, but I'm just trying to find things as I try to avoid Fords and Chevys blowing by me like I'm standing still here on the raceway.
Well, what you should have done is had the other people drive, or you should have Bluetooth in your vehicle, and then you wouldn't have to hold the phone. All right, JC.
I got Bluetooth.
JC, stop by Walmart and get you about 4 dozen of Top Flights before you head down there.
All right, QB, over under. JC losing 9.5 balls in 2 rounds of street ball, playing 6,500. Oh my God!
Whoa! It's 6,500. No. You're going to lose at least 6 balls minimum. All right, we got to go. We got to get to Mike Griffith to ruffle everybody's feathers. All right, that's JC joining us on the Titan Bar Hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mike Griffith from Dog Nation, talking about a little bit about the Georgia Bulldogs. You're watching and listening to Pot Up Matthews in the Morning.
On August 11th, our restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and we're inviting you to Celebration Point. Proceeds from the event will go to the Ronald McDonald House, and we'll have a spread of your favorite Spurrier dishes, as well as special guests, but you have to get a reservation. So go to Spurriers.com right now and reserve your spot before it sells out. And thank you for a super first year. Go Gators.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker M.M. Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point, that's where the Gators go to celebrate. And there's no celebration like the one-year anniversary celebration at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Join us on August 11th as we celebrate buffet style, including a filet mignon carving station. Proceeds from the tickets will go to the Ronald McDonald House of North Central Florida. Make your reservations today at spurriers.com. We're now going to head to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Mike Griffith from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Dog Nation, coming to us live from between the hedges, Sanford Stadium. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, good to see you, Shane. I'm well.
Hey, we got a bunch of questions here because I know you like to ruffle the feathers for these Gator fans. I got a text. Well, first of all, I want people to let's go back. You heard the read I just talked about, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
Yeah.
You were very involved with Chris Doring, who was the sponsor of the first year Steve Spurrier Coaches Award winner, which I think is an outstanding deal. Just talk a little bit about what made y'all decide to do that and put it in Coach's name.
Well, Shane, this award's been around for a while, and actually Coach Spurrier won it when he was at South Carolina through the Football Writers Association. But we didn't have a coach, we didn't have a name attached to it, and I've been the chairman of it for all these years. And a couple of years ago, I just felt like, I looked at Coach Spurrier. I saw him speak at SEC Media Days with Herschel Walker and Archie Manning a few years ago, and I recognized that there wasn't an award for Coach Spurrier, and I just thought to myself, I was dumbfounded by that. I mean, because when you think about the Mount Rushmore of coaches, collegiate coaches, certainly Steve Spurrier is up there. I mean, he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. I think he revolutionized the SEC in the 1990s with what he was able to do with the Gators, and certainly resuscitated a program that I don't think had won an SEC title, and I think he won 6 or 7 in 12 years, depending on whether you want to give him credit for having the best record in the league in 1990. I do. And I just felt like that something should be done. And I felt like that was a good marriage with that award that I chair, because what Coach Spurrier did in his first year in Gainesville, as well as what he did in his first year at South Carolina, as well as what he did to transform Duke. He made Duke a winner. So I reached out to Coach Spurrier. I'd obviously covered him, but as a beat writer for Auburn, as a beat writer for Alabama, as a beat writer at Tennessee, and now as a beat writer at Georgia, I know what Steve Spurrier meant to the league, having seen the other team and picked up the pieces the week after a Gator team thrashed them, and quoted, the great Spurrier. So I was really excited when Coach agreed to put his name on this award. And then obviously the ceremony that we had earlier this year, Shane, was unbelievable. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill just blew me away. Place like no other. I came back. I told Kirby Smart, I said, I don't know what y'all got here, but they got a recruiting advantage down there. Let me tell you, that place rocks. So that's kind of the story. I had actually reached out to Chris and said, hey, Chris, what do you think about this? And of course, Chris, being one of the all-time Gator greats, was all over it. And then the way the Florida alums and former great players like yourself showed out, it was just a fantastic event there, and it really showed all the love and passion of the 1990 Gators.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was an awesome event, and I look forward to it every year. Mike, I've been thinking all week long or all summer long, and because people, obviously the Gator fans are irritated with how Georgia has kind of turned things around under Kirby Smart. But you've been covering, as you said, a lot of schools in the Southeastern Conference for a long time. I was comparing how Kirby, now he took over Georgia, which Mark Richt had done a good job. They'd won 9-10 games here and there. But it's very similar to me. What Kirby is doing at Georgia is what Steve Spurrier did when he took over the Gators in 1990. Former player comes home. Obviously, Kirby's nowhere near the player that Steve Spurrier was. But, I mean, Kirby's got him rolling right now. And he's already played for 2 national titles. Coach got to play for 2 national titles, lost the first one, then won the second one. But do you see some similarities there?
Well, I'd point out, Shane, that Georgia was a 3 seed, and if it was prior to the playoffs, Kirby wouldn't have won a national title last year. And I wonder how many more national championships Steve Spurrier would have won if there was a 14 playoff. So I'll introduce that and say it's not exactly apples to apples there, because Georgia was the 3 seed. Conversely, in 2017, Alabama probably shouldn't have made the playoff. Theoretically, you don't even play in your league title game. But yeah, I think when you've got a former player, an alum, and you're right, there's very few coaches that I don't think any. I'm trying to think of any Heisman Trophy winning players that went on to coach their alma mater and approach the success that Coach Spurrier had. Kirby was an all-SEC guy. He was a former walk-on. He was a gritty guy. And I think when you have an alum that comes back to the school, I think the approach is a little bit different. I feel like it's more wholesome. I feel like there's that's the destination location. It's not about getting to the next job. I don't know if I ever really felt like Urban Meyer was going to stay at Florida forever, if you know what I mean. Whereas with Spurrier, you knew how genuine it was, and he was all in. And I think that the fans embraced it, and it made it that much easier for him to get the kind of support that he needed to get. And that's what happened at Georgia. When Kirby Smart came back in, I mean, they basically said, look, we got to jack up these facilities, man. We're way behind. And since Kirby's been hired, they put $240 million into facilities. And I think it's easier for alums and former players to get behind former coaches. I think it makes it harder on others. I see that a little bit with Billy Napier now. I mean, look, this guy, by the book, he checks all the boxes, but who is he? He's not a proven commodity. He's not a former Gator, but, he's asking for things that honestly, Shane, Florida's got to have. I mean, it really is an arms race. And I don't know if Florida fans realize, this sounds crazy because I never thought I'd say this, but I don't know if Florida fans realize how far behind they are. Now, this $85 million building that y'all are about to open is going to be really, really big. But when it comes to the arms race and the NIL right now, this is a game changer.
Yeah, I've been preaching facilities issues for the last 10 or 15 years on whether it's my show, other shows, and we're finally going to be on a level playing field. The problem is, as you said, Georgia, I was up there with my son 4 or 5 years ago for the one-day camp, and I think since then they've already redone the facilities, which were outstanding as well. So we got a text on the Titan Mark text line from Daryl for you here. He says, "Good morning, Shane. This is for Mike. A lot of the Georgia fans think Florida is dead, but within 3 years, Florida will be competing with Georgia for the East with Coach Napier's recruiting and coaching." Your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great attitude. I hope everybody feels that way when you hire a coach that hasn't coached a game yet. What Coach Napier did at Louisiana was impressive. If you look at career winning percentages, I think he's third in the league. What was he, 40-12, 40-14? But that was at Louisiana. I mean, everybody was good somewhere else. Brian Harsin was a rock star somewhere else. A lot of it has to do with what you inherit. I think it's going to be important that the Gators have a good season to get some more buy-in, to get some momentum. I hear the same thing from Tennessee fans. They feel like they're going to be competing with Georgia in 3 years. And I think based on the way Tennessee's spending in the NIL, they will. I don't know if Florida's got an $8 million quarterback yet, but Tennessee does. Tennessee has put the East on notice. The Big Orange is funneling a lot of money through they've changed their state laws so that collections agencies can actually contact high school recruits. So it all sounds good, and it's the company line, Shane, but until we see what happens, I'll tell you, one of the guys I was most impressed with at SEC Media Days with Anthony Richardson, not just how big and physical and athletic and just the way he moves, you can tell. I mean, this is a phenomenal athlete. I've heard a lot of stories from the Gator beat writers. They're all excited about his upside. I talked with Tim Tebow, and when Tebow says somebody's a good athlete, I mean, that's okay. That's a pretty good compliment if Tim Tebow's calling you a good athlete. But I just don't know if the Gators have the skill position players. And I think the East this year, I think the waters are going to be a little bit deeper with more second-year quarterback, not just Richardson, but also Hendon Hooker at Tennessee, a second-year guy. Will Levis, second-year guy at Kentucky. I think that makes the Wildcats, now South Carolina, they played 4 different quarterbacks last year. I think they've got a talented guy in Spencer Rattler, kind of the joker in the deck. Not sure about the Gamecocks. Georgia loaded once again, even though maybe Stetson Bennett, maybe not in the same category of athlete as Anthony Richardson, but brings you some mobility and some playmaking ability. So I think this is a tough year for the Gators, Shane, but this recruiting class is going to be big. The amount of transfers, I think, can be a game changer. If Billy Napier and Anthony Richardson can show that Florida has the ability to be explosive once again, then I think recruits will absolutely flock to the Swamp.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Mike Griffith on the Titan MR Hotline. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Griffith 23. Speaking of Doring came out and predicted the Dogs to lose in Lexington to Kentucky. It seems like Doring picks Kentucky to win the East every year this time. But I understand what he's saying, because I think Kentucky has coached really well under Stoops. He's done a phenomenal job. If they play Georgia early in the year, because we all know Georgia's lost a lot of really good players that are going to be playing on Sundays, but they're playing them late in the year. And I think Georgia will kind of feel themselves out as a team. Do you think there's any chance that the Wildcats, Doring's prediction, can come true?
Sure. I think Georgia's going to lose a regular season game. I just don't know which one. Yeah. I mean, they lost a lot. I just pointed out, the East has a lot more experienced quarterbacks. And when you got a great quarterback, it gives you a puncher's chance, right? If you got an inexperienced quarterback against a Kirby Smart defense, he's probably going to fillet you, because he's going to put that pressure on you. He's got so many different I don't need to explain this to you. You know this. You know what young quarterbacks do under pressure versus veteran quarterbacks that have been around 1 year. That 1 to 2 year, that's a big jump for a lot of guys, and I think you're going to see that. And with Georgia being a little younger, 5 out of 7 guys in the secondary are new. 5 out of the back 7 are new. And there's a lot of questions when you play that match zone. That requires a lot of coordination, a lot of communication, and these guys just don't have the reps together like last year's team did. So Kentucky, perhaps. It's a November game. They play Mississippi State the week before in Starkville. I think that's a trap game. Mississippi State played them really well in Sanford Stadium in 2020, held them to 8 yards rushing. So maybe State's got a puncher's chance. Tennessee does play at Sanford Stadium, but they won here in 2016, so that's always a possibility. But the only reason that I'm a little hesitant on Kentucky is because they play a lot of the same style that Georgia does. And in terms of that balanced power football, physical. And I just don't know if you're going to out Georgia. I kind of feel like it's going to take a team with an aerial assault having a good day to beat a Kirby Smart defense.
I agree with that. Speaking of Sanford Stadium, obviously Kirby's been talking for the last several years about moving the Florida-Georgia game. I get his point. We need that. We want that extra home game for recruiting, but it's every other year. Come on, Kirby. You've been 1, 2, and 3 nationally recruiting ever since you've been there. Can it really make that big of a damn difference, Mike?
Well, the business model that Georgia's been operating under, Shane, has gotten them 1 national title in 40 years. And since 1993, when the league split, I believe that Florida has won 3 national titles and Georgia's won 1. And I believe that Florida's won 7 SEC championships and Georgia's won 3. So, it kind of works for Florida. Your campus is 70 miles away. I mean, theoretically, a kid could go to the game and drive over to the campus and hang out with players and coaches. You could be hosting visitors every year through the cocktail party. Nobody's going to drive 340 miles to Athens after a game. And the game's changed for Georgia. It's not about beating Florida anymore, Shane. It's about beating Alabama and win national championship here. And you can't spot Nick Saban an extra recruiting weekend. You can't spot him anything. I can't even believe. I know your argument isn't genuine, because as a Gator, Doring told me about how hard you guys worked. You didn't leave anything out. Everything was left on the field. There wasn't a day off that you guys took to transform that program into the most dominant program in the SEC. And you're asking Georgia to take a day off and try to beat Nick Saban, who's working 7 days a week? We both know that's not genuine. I think what could happen here, though, Shane, is Georgia could reclaim its home game, its ability to be on a level playing field with the Alabamas and the LSUs, the national championship contenders, and perhaps Florida keeps their game in Jacksonville. That's what Alabama did when Auburn moved the Iron Bowl to its campus. Bama kept their game in Jacksonville. There's also the possibility that if we go to this 9-game schedule, perhaps we have a Gainesville, Athens, Jacksonville rotation. And I know that doesn't satisfy everyone, but I believe that's the compromise we might see.
It'd be interesting to see. Got a text on the Titan Mar text line from William. He says, can you talk about the relationship between Kirby and Muschamp? And obviously having Will on his staff really helps Kirby make decisions.
I'm going to make a bold statement. I don't think Georgia wins the national championship last year without Will Muschamp. And here's why. Because if Georgia doesn't beat Clemson in the opener, Shane, they don't get a second chance at Alabama. They're a 2-loss team, and there's never been a 2-loss team that's made the college football playoff in the current format. That was a 10-3 football game with a pick six. If you don't have Will Muschamp, and think about how much knowledge he brought of Clemson football to the Georgia huddle, having been the South Carolina coach those years, I think that was the winning edge that put Georgia over the hump in that opener against Clemson. Clemson wasn't as bad as they looked. That defense was second in the country to Georgia, and DJU wasn't great, but he was good enough. I think when they lost that game, they lost a couple of key players as well. That was a better Clemson team than you think. Look for Clemson to be back this year. But that was a pivotal game, and Georgia doesn't win the national title without Will Muschamp. Will is a guy that is universally respected. I've been told he's the most well-liked guy in the building. It's different when you're assistant than when you're a head coach. And I think he gives Kirby Smart the echo chamber, that guy that he can look eye to eye with, right? There's not many people that can look eye to eye with Kirby Smart, but Will's a guy that helped Kirby early in his career. If you know the story, Will was an upperclassman when Kirby came in at Georgia. Will helped Kirby get hired at Valdosta State and LSU. So these are longtime friends and peers, and it's like having a best friend and someone you can trust and equal on your coaching staff, which is really difficult for these coaches once they reach that $100 million pay stratosphere.
Yeah. A couple more questions for you. Speaking of Valdosta, AJ from Valdosta texts in and says, do you think any of those 5-star quarterbacks transfer before this year, during the year, or definitely transfer at the end of the year?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. They're both on deck. I mean, Stetson Bennett's one hit away from being out of the lineup. You know, I'm trying to think. I think Jake Fromm in 2019 is the last quarterback for Kirby that started the year as the starter and ended the year as the starter. So the odds tell me that one of them will probably be playing by the end of the year, whether it's through injury or just substitution. Carson Beck is ready to go. I mean, he looked good in the spring game. He doesn't have the game experience Stetson does, but you know, he's got the athletic ability and the talent, and I think he knows the offense. I don't think Brock Vandagriff is too far off either. And Stetson's gone. I mean, he'll turn 25 this September. I think this is his 6th year, but Stetson will be gone. So now all of a sudden, if you're Brock Vandagriff, you're next man up behind Carson Beck, especially Shane after Georgia lost out on Arch Manning in the recruiting war with Texas. And without Arch Manning coming in next year, I think it's Carson Beck and Vandagriff. So both of those guys probably stick around.
All right. My last question for you. Part of it's from Sharon on the Titan Mar text line. She wants to know, having finally gotten the monkey off his back and the school's back, does Kirby seem more relaxed this year to you? And then my question is, do you see Georgia being in the 14 playoff?
Yeah, so the first one's no. I mean, Kirby's, kind of like Spurrier, these guys are who they are, right? And it's not going to change. I mean, the Coach Spurrier that I'm dealing with now is the same Coach Spurrier that I was dealing with on, post-game press conferences in the 90s. And, there's a reason why these people have success, Shane. I think you're probably very similar to the guy that you were with the Gators. I mean, when you find a formula for success, and usually that formula is hard work, an insatiable desire for success. These are the people who make it big, and Kirby's not going to change based on his paycheck, because look, he's always right now. I mean, a lot of people believe Georgia's a one-year wonder, and they might be. And if we look at the track record, Shane, it's pretty fascinating. During the Nick Saban era, if you look at the coaches that have won national championships, with the exception of Les Miles, who of course won with Nick Saban's players right after he left, right? But let's go down the list here. Gene Chizik gone within 3 years. Urban Meyer gone within 3 years. Ed Orgeron gone within 3 years. Nobody's been able to sustain success during the Saban dynasty. And now it's going to be on Kirby and his highly paid coaches and talented team. Can they be the program that finally breaks Nick Saban and breaks the Alabama dynasty? As for this year, that's a really tough call, because I think it's predicated on what happens in other leagues. For example, I think Ohio State is going to sail through the Big Ten. I think Ohio State probably should have been the team that played Georgia for the national title last year if their guys didn't get all scared in the cold weather in Ann Arbor. But that's kind of an Ohio State thing. I've seen them lose to Michigan State in bad weather. So Ohio State will probably be there. I think Clemson runs the table. I think Clemson will be back. So now all of a sudden, there's not much of a margin for error. Who's the Big 12 champion? Does Oklahoma get through unscathed? How about Oregon? What happens in the Oregon-Georgia opener? Is it close enough that Oregon, maybe if they win the league, gets the edge over a Georgia team that loses to Alabama in the SEC championship game? So I think that's a 50-50 deal, Shane. I think it has to do with where the other teams are ranked. I saw a 2018 Georgia team that was one of the 4 best in the country, but they didn't get in because of 2 losses, and Oklahoma did get in. And by the way, that Oklahoma team was down to Alabama 28-0 within 16 minutes. So we know how the College Football Playoff Committee works. It's gotten political, and I think if Georgia loses more than 1 game, they won't get in.
Mike, great stuff as always. We appreciate you taking the time. Let everybody know how they can, if they want to read about the Georgia Bulldogs, how they can do it.
Yeah, at dognation.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Griffith 32.
Good stuff, buddy. Appreciate it.
You got it, Shane. Thanks.
That's Mike Griffith. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. Going to take a timeout, come back, wrap up this Friday edition.
On August 11th, our restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and we're inviting you to Celebration Point. Proceeds from the event will go to the Ronald McDonald House, and we'll have a spread of your favorite Spurrier dishes, as well as special guests, but you have to get a reservation. So go to spurriers.com right now and reserve your spot before it sells out. And thank you for a super first year. Go Gators.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogra State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogrinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. I want to thank JC and Mike Griffith for joining us. I know a lot of people, Mike just gives his opinion on the Georgia Bulldogs. That's who he covers. I understand when people get upset. This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat. Schedule your air conditioners tune up today, keeping you chill and the Florida heat far away. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Give them a call, 352-376-2366. This Day in Sports in 1995, the Carolina Panthers beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in both of their first NFL exhibition games. And the game score was 20-14, and we should have exhibition games pretty soon. So Scott says you could kind of tell he was biting his tongue, though. I could hear the snark just wanting to come. Yeah, he was pretty controlled on my show today, I think, because it was a Gator show. But we appreciate that. We'll have him back on. So, hey, folks, have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday. Take care.